Hello, everyone. So today I want to discuss a bit of a different financial topic to keep you safe. So one thing I want to share is that there's always hackers out there that are trying to steal your money. And unfortunately, there's a bit of a new technique out there that is able to now steal money directly from your bank account. And so I just kind of want to advise you of what's going on and then some things that I do to protect myself from this hack. So first off, let's discuss what this kind of new technique, not necessarily new technique is, and it's the idea of shimming. So shimming is the insertion of some kind of electronic device into a payment system. So back then, they used to be these really bulky devices that they would put on gas stations, ATM machines, and they could be noticeable before. They were pretty large, so you could see something right here where they insert this additional fake device on top of the real insertion point for your card. And this was meant to copy the digital strip of your card. And then they would go ahead and perform transactions as if it was on your actual card. And now they could do this with the credit card, or they could do this with the debit card. The dangers about the debit card use is that typically if you lose money from your debit card, banks aren't incentivized to kind of fight for it or help you get your money back. And so you kind of just lost your money and unfortunately lost it to hackers in that instance. So why am I saying this is a bit of a new technique? It's because before they used to be a lot larger, they used to be a lot more conspicuous, whereas nowadays they can go ahead and insert it directly inside of the um, kind of insert for the card. And additionally, we used to be protected by these microchips. So the microchips would have to be more secure, and they were. But nowadays, with shimming, unfortunately, they found ways to actually make it more efficient to steal your money in the sense that they can actually copy these microchip information just like they did the digital strip, and they'll be able to replicate your card and go ahead and perform transactions in other places. Now, this idea comes from kind of an evolutionary idea where there's this thing called coevolution. Essentially, back then we had predators and prey. I mean, we still do to this day. But the idea is that the prey would go ahead and, through evolution or over time, develop adaptations that would help protect themselves. And so the predators had to get just as good to be able to catch the same prey, and they would get a little bit stronger, they would get a little bit faster, perhaps sharper claws and so forth. Anything that would help them be a little bit more successful in the hunt. And they would get stronger, they would be able to successfully attack the prey. And then this went back and forth, where the prey would get stronger, and then additionally, the predators would get stronger. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because this is the exact same concept that happens with cybersecurity. There's always going to be systems that are in place to protect each other from hacks, whether that's the microchips, whether that's kind of permissions or different kind of procedures that will help kind of harden your system. However, the hackers are also becoming more advanced in response to these protections and looking to kind of find ways to still hack and unfortunately steal our money. And this introduction of shimming, being able to copy your microchip card, puts you at more risk. So once again, how does it necessarily work? So instead of taking a copy of your magnetic strip, now they're able to actually replicate your microchip, that little chip that's on your card, where you would go ahead and insert it, and it was supposed to be more secure. And the danger of this is, once again, since this is typically, this can be on your debit card. If you were to insert your debit card, then someone else is going to be able to capture that information if they did insert a shim into the paper information, and they'll be able to spend all your money in your debit or in your bank account because your debit card is directly linked to your bank. And once again, there's not really going to be too much of an advocate from the bank or necessarily from the government or police to get your money back, because it's just going to be a bit difficult. And depending on how much money they take, they might not really be incentivized. So what are some personal things that I do to protect myself from these attacks? Number one, so these are just some things to consider. Feel free to include them if you'd like. They do add a little bit of inconvenience, just a tiny bit, but I would say it's definitely worth it for the protection, just because once you go through identity theft, it's something that's kind of very unfortunate, and see, these simple tips can really help. But once again, this is just things that I do. Number one, I use a credit card whenever possible. Now, that being said, I don't just go ahead and start charging all of these random expenses to my credit card. I'm always responsible. If I need to pay for something that I would normally have paid for in cash or with a debit card, essentially, I just go ahead and pay it with the credit card, and if I have a balance, I'll go ahead and pay it off before the cycle to not get any interest charged to my account. Now, the other kind of benefit of using a credit card is that it helps you build credit. So you're making purchases, you're paying it off right away. You can unlock any kind of rewards. So depending on the credit card, I've gotten several credit cards just because if you spend X amount of dollars within several months, they'll go ahead and give you a reward of $200, $300. I believe, just from the different credit cards I've used over the years, I've amassed, I think, over the span of several years, about a little over $2,000 in direct credit or cash, which is really nice. So that's kind of a nice thing about Benefit, or they might even have cashback features. Now, the last reason I use a credit card is because then the banks are really going to be incentivized. If they do copy the microchip on your credit card, they're going to be incentivized to get that money back, because it's not your money they stole necessarily. It's the bank's money that they stole. So they're going to go ahead and push forward. You could dispute account, or you could dispute charges. There's protections in place that make it so that if you do get scammed and you report it within a certain amount of time frame, they'll go ahead and remove that. So it's really, really beneficial. There's a lot of protections in place relative to a debit card. The second thing that I would say is, if you do decide to use your debit card, which is perfectly okay, I understand the need for it, because you don't want to go ahead and just remove it if you have a bank account. Instead, what you can do is you can use a card locking feature. Card locking is really this idea of most institutions will have it. So for example, my credit union that I'm involved with does have it, and it's your debit card on the mobile application. I can go ahead and manage my debit card and just quickly lock it and unlock it with the simple click of a button. So anytime I need to, let's say, for example, go to the ATM, what I would do is I would use my debit card. So let's say it did get copied in that moment and someone was going to steal my money at a later time. Well, I go ahead and immediately lock it after I get my money out. So I'd had to unlock it before and then go ahead and go to the ATM, withdraw whatever money I need, and then I'd lock it. And the whole process takes me about, opening my phone to unlock, and then opening my phone again to lock it, maybe about 20 to 30 seconds. So it is a little bit inconvenient, but it's definitely a lot more secure for me. So that's one thing that I recommend, just because like I said, debit cards are very susceptible to being hacked, or in a sense being scammed. Now, the last thing that I would recommend, this is just a bit of an extra tip, aside from skimming, or shimming, I should say. This is just an extra tip to prevent you from receiving kind of identity fraud, and that is going to your reporting agencies. So creating an account on Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So these are the three biggest reporting agencies. And what they'll do is they're responsible for kind of reporting what your credit score is whenever you apply for a credit card or a loan, a mortgage, anything that requires borrowing money in any sense will be asked. So the person who's lending you the money will go ahead and request your credit score and your credit information from one of these three companies. And so one of the things you can do is you can create a free account, like I did myself, and you can perform what's called a freeze on your account, credit freeze. So what that means is no one's going to be able to take out a credit card in your name, a car loan in your name, a mortgage, so buy a house in your name, which has been known to happen. Someone who was affected by this. And if you do have it locked, or frozen, I should say frozen, then you won't have to worry about that. Only if you do want to, like, say, apply for a credit card or apply for a mortgage, you could go ahead and sign in, unlock the freeze for that day, and then it immediately goes through. And so there's no worry about really delays. At least in my experience, I've been able to apply for credit cards that same day. I just unlocked it. The next minute, I was able to apply. And then I went ahead and locked it again after being approved for my credit card application. So that's just a bit of a tip to make sure you're a little bit extra safe from potentially experiencing identity theft. These accounts are free. And the idea of the credit freeze is also a free process. So at no time should you be asked to pay any money to perform these actions. They're completely free. If you are being asked to pay any money, then it's probably a scam site. So that's just something that I wanted to share. But I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please share, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon.